you die. You die, and this is just a part of what I'm going to be speaking about, from a progressive rusting of your body. Because what happens to iron when introduced to water and darkness? Yes. So what are we doing except rusting to death? Crusting to death. Atrophying to death. Because of the base metal that we are operating on today. Back to junk food, sold as health food. Acidophilus. How many of y'all take acidophilus? Come on, get it up. Yeah. Acidophilus is an intestinal strain that ferments milk. It is incompatible with the intestinal flora of the melanated man and woman. It is quickly ejected from the system. Most of us have an overload of putrefactive flora in our system because we eat so much shit. Your body is different from the Caucasoid or the Chalkozoid. Different because you, beloved brothers and sisters, because of your melanin, because you still hold on to that one ingredient, that thing that they're looking for in the Genome Project. You hold on to that dark matter spiral that allows you to eat color. You get nutrition from color. The black man and black woman's intestinal flora at its highest potencies extracts color from food. That's why people of color should never eat white food. We're going to get deep today. Never should eat white food. When the white man eats, his intestinal flora is not strong enough. The European wasp white, blue-eyed, blonde hair. His intestinal flora is not strong enough to break down whole foods. That is why, over the time of his degeneration in Europe, before he descended on Africa, his foods became refined in order to deal with the weak intestinal fortitude that he had. His consciousness had to refine his food in order to deal with the least of the evils that he was dealing with. So what you see when you're looking at a Caucasian is the blue eye. Now there is a substance in your body called bilirubin. They're going to now extract that from black folks and use that as a nutrition. Because your bilirubin is higher and more potent than his. His bilirubin needs to constantly be recycling. Now, bilirubin is what turns your shit brown. What happens is that anything you see, when you look at a tree, when the tree dies, it turns what colors? Brown. So when you extract whole colors, you do that. Now, in his foods, they're already dead, so there ain't nothing to do but turn it brown. In yours, you're supposed to be waiting to digest longer because you have more components in live food. You don't need to eat as much. And if you are a vegetarian, you now turn into a grazer, which means you eat all the time, but the right things. But as a flesh eater, you eat once and then sleep 15 hours. All progressively degenerative to the death. His bilirubin, because it is so bereft of nutrition, in his own, in the cosmic intelligence, caused his bilirubin to continue to recycle in his body. That's what turns his eye blue. When you look at our ancestors, when you see our 90 and 100-year-old grandmothers and grandfathers, by the time they've reached that degenerative state, what colors do their eye turn? And what color? And blue. You see black people eyes turn gray and blue. Now, at the point of that beautiful melanated sister and brother's time, when they degenerated to that point, they degenerate to the point where the Caucasoid begins. You understand what I just said? If we degenerate and our eyes turn blue, What does that tell you about who he is? It gives you a perspective of who the parent is in consciousness and who the child is. We are light synthesizers, and as such, we need color as food in order to maintain the resonance that melanin must have to communicate with other star systems. We are light processors by nature. All living things are light processors, but there is no greater light processor in the creation of all things than the melanated man and the melanated woman. We are the inversions of God in the flesh. From the triple blackness, the Most High had to create blackness in order to recognize itself. Because if the light came from the blackness, there's no way for the blackness to overstand the light unless it was black again. Because I understood that black absorbed all light. So when black and the triple black and that which God is creates, it has to create black again in order to speak to itself. So it knows what it's talking about when it finds out things like we do in here today. So we need to consume and process the ingredients of light, which breaks down into color. Because what happens to white light when you put a prism through it? Breaks down into 7 bands of colors. Well, that's what happens. What do you think food is? It's a second-hand version of what solar light gave to you. So it has to have been a container for light radiation, for solar radiation, which means it's a quality of light. And so what it has configured itself molecularly into being is what you now are extracting by way of your specific crystal that you call your digestive juices. Check? We digest light into color. Color is the band and frequency of consciousness for the new time. All language is going to come through vectors of color. Now, refined foods have no light to release, and so to constantly consume them is to rob your own light in the cells. See? Let me say this to you. When you consume denatured food, the denatured food robs the light, which is the activity and the solar intelligence of your cells, in order to process that death out of your system. And in so doing, you do what your Bible has said, you begin to sacrifice the innocents. That is Herod. Herod is your passions and your ignorance, sacrificing and killing off the innocents. Now, do not mistake a drug effect for a health effect whenever you take things that do not have the proper light codes and life source in them. When something stimulates you, do not think it is a health effect. It is a drug effect. Cod liver oil is the waste byproduct of the fishing industry. This substance is toxic to human metabolism, and it must be kept out of the reach of children. Garlic is highly toxic, and it's a root that our Kemetic ancestors used to combat radiation poison in the last days. It contains an indigestible component called allicin. Bee pollen. Everything in pollen is contained in the fruit. Heightened. So you don't need bee pollen. Flower pollen too. Bee propolis. Now the propolis is called a natural antibiotic. It's like honey. Honey is an antibiotic. It kills your symbiotic intestinal flora. When you take honey, they use honey as a medicinal in the ancient days. not to sweeten your damn tea. Honey creates mannite acid. It's all in my book in the back. When I broke down in the Sacred Principles of Health, I only brought 50. Forgive me, because again, because of finance. But if you can, if you want to, copy it and send it off to somebody. But, you know, tell them that we're doing it on a shoestring. But in the book, I speak about the fact that honey creates mannite and carbonic acid. These disrupt the intestinal flora and causes indigestion, creates alcohol in your system. Anything that kills your intestinal flora or your bacteria causes the body to create conditions to bypass that particular situation. So if you put something into your system that kills your natural body's flora, your body will counteract that by creating other things in your system that will counteract what you just did to kill off that flora. So that's why you start bubbling and gurgling and farting all over the place and belching and shit, running people out the room. That used to be Thanksgiving. Shit. I used to run at Thanksgiving after everybody eat. After everybody eat, I ran outside. Now, even the American meat industry is selling you everything but the shadow and the oink. They ain't found a way to get the oink or the shadow yet, but they're going to try a way to sell that shit back to you. Here's what the meat industry sells to you as health food. And you have to look at these as part of the ingredients to certain health foods that they're selling at GNC stores, general nutrition stores that sell all this shit as health in a bottle. The meat industry sells you glands, bone meal, gelatin, insulin, protein powder, kidneys, urine and urea, powdered testicles. Whew. Bran, liver extracts, and pancreas. People who consume glands, those who have glands, end up catching cancers. And they end up with endocrine or sexual disorders. They also have problems with allergies. Now, big money, big time money is made selling the body parts after the rendering. Let me just give you an example. Adrenals go for $14,500 a pound. Bile goes for $2,300 a pound. Bone meal is $900 a pound. Eyeballs, $7,300 a pound. Hearts, $2,300 a pound. Hypothalamuses, $11,000 a pound. Livers are $900,000 a pound, or $900 a pound. Lymph is $1,800 a pound. Parathyroids is $11,000 a pound. Pituitaries are $18,000 a pound. Placentas are $4,500 a pound. Prostates are $2,700 a pound. Testicles, are $3,200 a pound. Uteruses, $3,000 a pound. Now, what the fuck they want with all of that? The research community buys it from the meat industry. The pharmaceuticals now make a deal with the commercial part of the holistic health community and sell the byproduct of this shit as ingredients to your food. Check. I hope am I boring any of you all out here? Okay, good. I want y'all to be with me. Molasses. Molasses is a junk food that is sold as a medicinal and a food enhancer. It is degraded and mutated like honey. It is contaminated with pesticides from the sugar that it was processed from. It contains 30 to 50% sugar. Chemists and drug manufacturers